A 2019 Silverado came into a shop with 42,000 miles and a ticking sound on cold starts. The dealer told the owner it was normal. But 6 months later, collapsed AFM lifters had destroyed the cam and sent metal through the entire oil system. $9,200. A $200 part and a little patience each morning would have saved that entire bill. These are 10 engine startup mistakes Chevy owners make that quietly destroy their engines. Number 6 is the one mechanics see more than any other. Let's get into it. Number 1, starting your Chevy without checking for rodent damage. This one sounds ridiculous until it happens to you. Starting around 2019, General Motors switched to soy-based wire insulation across most of their vehicle lineup. It sounds like a small engineering change. In practice, it turned every Chevy engine bay into a buffet for mice, squirrels, and rats. They chew through wiring harnesses, fuel lines, and air filter housings, usually building nests in the warm spots near the firewall. If you fire up the engine with exposed conductors touching hot exhaust components, you could start a fire under your hood. Even without flames, damaged sensor wiring throws dozens of fault codes at once. Your truck will not shift right, will not idle properly, and will not read gauges, all from a mouse that spent the weekend making itself comfortable. Wiring repairs typically run $400 to $1,000 per incident. A full engine harness replacement can hit $3,000. Before your first start after any extended parking, whether that is a vacation or a long weekend at the cabin, pop the hood. Look for droppings, nesting material, or chewed wires. 30 seconds of looking around could save you thousands. Peppermint oil sachets and ultrasonic deterrent devices are cheap insurance if you park near wooded areas. But this next one affects a very specific group of Chevy owners, and hardly anyone sees it coming. Number 2, restarting a heat-soaked Camaro too quickly. 5th and 6th generation Camaro owners know this frustration. You pull into a gas station after highway driving, shut off the engine, run inside for 2 minutes, come back out, and the starter barely turns over, slow and grinding, like the battery is almost dead. The problem is, where Chevrolet placed the starter motor, it sits dangerously close to the exhaust manifold and catalytic converters. After sustained driving, underhood temperatures in that area can blow past 200 degrees. The starter's internal components expand from that heat, solenoid contacts arc and pit, and eventually the whole unit fails. This issue was severe enough to trigger a class action lawsuit. Camaro forums are full of owners reporting their second and third starter replacement on the same vehicle. Each starter swap runs $400 to $800 in parts and labor. Add surrounding wiring damage from heat exposure, and you are looking at another $300 to $600 on top. The fix is simple. If you need to restart shortly after highway driving, give it 5 to 10 minutes to cool, or spend about $30 on aftermarket heat wrap for the starter and the wiring nearby. That small investment beats replacing starters every couple of years. Number 3 catches a lot of weekend car enthusiasts completely off guard. Number 3. Starting after winter storage without checking the oil. That Corvette or Camaro you parked in the garage in October might fire right up in April. But the oil circulating through that engine could wreck the internals in minutes. During months of storage, condensation builds inside the engine. Fuel sitting in the injector rail seeps past piston rings and drips into the crankcase. Over 4 to 6 months, your oil level can actually rise on the dipstick from fuel contamination, even though the oil's ability to protect moving parts has plummeted. Here is what makes it worse. That old advice about starting the engine once a month during storage actually adds more raw fuel contamination without ever reaching temperatures hot enough to burn it off. You are accelerating the problem while thinking you are helping. Bearing damage from contaminated oil runs $2,000 to $4,000. Keep driving on that degraded oil after spring startup, and you could be staring at a full engine replacement north of $5,000. Before your first warm weather drive, pull the dipstick. If the oil smells like gasoline, looks milky, or the level is higher than when you parked it, change the oil before you turn the key. A $30 oil change beats a $5,000 engine rebuild. This next one has plagued the Chevy community for over 2 decades, and a lot of owners still don't recognize the early warning signs. Number 4. Ignoring cold start, rough idle on Vortec engines. If you own a 1999 through 2007 Silverado Tahoe or any full-size Chevy with the Vortec V8, pay close attention. That rough, idle, and occasional misfire on cold mornings is not just your engine warming up. It is your intake manifold gaskets failing. General Motors used composite gaskets on these engines that shrink when cold and swell when hot. Every cold start and warm-up cycle stresses them a little more. After thousands of cycles, they crack. The scary part is how they fail. The gasket can erode inward, letting coolant seep directly into your crankcase. Your oil turns milky. Bearings start wearing far faster than they should. If you keep driving with coolant-contaminated oil, you will spin a bearing. General Motors acknowledged this pattern in a technical service bulletin. This is a documented design weakness, not internet speculation. Replacing the gaskets proactively with upgraded metal units costs $400 to $800. A competent home mechanic can handle it in a weekend. But if coolant gets into the oil and you keep driving, an engine rebuild runs $4,000 to $7,000. Full replacement can reach $9,500. If your Vortec is past 100,000 miles on original gaskets, do not wait for symptoms. This is one of those repairs where spending $800 today saves you $8,000 tomorrow. Number 5. Using block heaters wrong on General Motors trucks. This could literally burn your truck to the ground. Block heaters sound foolproof. Plug it in, let it warm the engine, and start the truck. But Chevy owners are causing fires, blown head gaskets, and check engine lights by getting the details wrong. The fire risk is real. General Motors recalled over 364,000 Silverado and Sierra HD trucks, model years 2017 through 2019, with the L5P Duramax because of short circuits at the heater-to-cord connection. At least 19 engine compartment fires were documented before the recall went out. If you own one of those trucks, check your VIN today, not next week, today. Beyond the recall, a lot of owners install aftermarket block heaters with higher wattage than factory spec. The General Motors factory heater runs 400 watts, sized specifically for the cooling system's small passages. Bigger heaters can boil coolant in localized spots and crack your head gaskets. That is a $1,500 to $3,000 repair from a part that was supposed to help your engine. And plugging in overnight is wasteful overkill. 2 to 4 hours before you drive is all you need. Use a timer. Also, 2008 and newer General Motors trucks use thermostatic block heater cords that only activate below certain temperatures. Swapping in a generic cord can throw a coolant sensor error because the engine computer expects a specific warm-up curve. Now, number 6. This is the big one. The mistake that cost Chevy V8 owners more money than anything else on this entire list. Number 6. Driving through the cold start lifter tick. This is the single most expensive mistake Chevy V8 owners make. It starts with something that sounds almost harmless, a light ticking noise on startup that fades once the engine warms up. That tick is the sound of your AFM lifters beginning to fail. The active fuel management system in your 5.3-liter or 6.2-liter V8 uses special lifters with an internal locking pin controlled by oil pressure. When that mechanism starts to collapse, the lifter taps against the cam lobe on every rotation. That is the tick you hear. And every time you shrug it off and drive, metal shavings from the deteriorating pin contaminate your oil, clog the valve lifter oil manifold screens, and grind away at your camshaft lobes. This affects 2007 through 2024 Silverados, Sierras, and the rest of the full-size GM lineup. The 2007 through 2010 models have the worst failure rates, and GM recently issued a major recall covering 598,000 trucks from 2021 through 2024 for bearing failures on the 6.2-liter engine tied to the same system. Lifter and camshaft replacement costs: $3,500 to $6,200 at an independent shop. Dealers charge $9,000 to $11,500. If metal debris has already spread through the engine, you are looking at complete replacement in the $8,000 to $15,000 range. If you hear ticking on cold starts, do not drive another week wondering if it is normal. Get it diagnosed. If you want to get ahead of the problem entirely, an AFM disabler device runs about $200 to $250. It cuts the cycling stress that kills these lifters. For the price of a nice dinner, you are potentially avoiding a 5-figure repair. That is the cheapest insurance in the entire Chevy world. But this next mistake accelerates that exact same failure even faster. If you are finding this helpful, hit subscribe. We cover Chevy maintenance tips and hidden problems every week, and the rest of this list could save you just as much money. Now, about that faster failure I mentioned. Number 7, flooring it before oil reaches the AFM system. This one works hand in hand with what we just covered. The valve lifter oil manifold that controls your AFM lifters needs consistent oil pressure to lock and unlock those collapsing mechanisms properly. Cold oil is thick. It takes 3 to 5 extra seconds to reach full pressure compared to warm oil. During that short window, the locking pins may not fully seat. If you pull out of the driveway and immediately hammer the throttle, you are forcing cam lobes against partially collapsed lifters. That accelerates the exact same wear pattern that leads to the catastrophic failures we just talked about. This hits every 2007 through 2024 GMV8 with AFM or DFM. It is especially harsh with the thinner 0W20 motor oil that newer models require. It flows faster for fuel economy, but it provides less initial film protection at startup than 5W30. The fix costs you absolutely nothing. Wait 30 to 60 seconds after a cold start before you drive. Keep RPM under 2,500 for the first 5 minutes. And skip the full throttle pulls until your temperature gauge is sitting in the normal range. A little patience in the morning goes a long way. If you drive a Duramax diesel, this next one could save your entire fuel system. Number 8, skipping the glow plug cycle on Duramax diesels. Every Duramax owner who turns the key straight to start on cold mornings is gambling with their fuel system, and almost nobody realizes it. Diesel engines need compression heat to ignite fuel. Below about 40 degrees, the combustion chamber simply cannot reach ignition temperature without help from the glow plugs. Cranking before the wait to start light finishes its cycle causes incomplete combustion, raw fuel washing down your cylinder walls, injector tip cracking from thermal shock, and extreme strain on the starter motor. The LB7 and LLY Duramax engines from 2001 through 2006 are especially vulnerable because their fuel filter heads tend to crack in cold weather, allowing air into the system on top of everything else. Each glow plug costs $300 to $500 to replace, and your Duramax has 8 of them. Injector damage from cold starts costs $400 to $800 per injector. A complete fuel system repair after repeated cold start abuse can exceed $6,000. The fix takes about 10 seconds. Cycle the key to on, wait for the wait to start light to go out, then repeat 2 to 3 times before cranking if temperatures are below 20 degrees. Below 0, plug in a block heater for a couple hours first. Your Duramax will thank you every cold morning for years. Number 9 is a slow killer that affects every single Chevy on the road, regardless of engine type. Never take a drive long enough to burn off crankcase moisture. If your daily commute is 5 minutes to the office and 5 minutes back, and your Chevy never sees the highway, you are building a sludge bomb inside your crankcase without knowing it. Every cold start introduces moisture through condensation. When your engine reaches full operating temperature, and that means oil temperature around 200 degrees Fahrenheit, rather than just what the coolant gauge shows, that moisture evaporates through the PCV system. But short trips mean the oil never gets hot enough to cook it off. Water accumulates, mixes with combustion acids, and forms sludge that clogs oil passages and corrodes internal surfaces. If you drive a 2014 or newer Chevy with direct injection, like the 5.3-liter or 6.2-liter engines in Silverados and Sierras, you have a second problem. Carbon builds up on the intake valves because they never reach self-cleaning temperatures. Getting those valves cleaned with walnut blasting costs $600 to $1,200. Some dealers charge over $2,000. Stuck piston rings from sludge buildup cause oil consumption and eventually lead to repairs in the $5,000 to $7,000 range. The solution is easy. Take one highway drive per week for at least 30 minutes. Let the oil actually get hot enough to burn off contaminants and do its job. If short trips are unavoidable, cut your oil change interval in half to 3,500 miles instead of 7,000 miles. Cheap oil changes are a lot better than expensive engine repairs. And finally, number 10. This is the single most common mistake on the entire list because almost every Chevy owner does it. Remote starting the truck for 15 minutes or longer without driving. You hit the button, let the truck idle in the driveway for 15 or 20 minutes on a cold morning, then finally head to work. It feels like good engine care, warm cabin, warm engine, everything should be happy. But you are actually accelerating internal wear every time you do it. When engines run cold, they run rich. That means extra fuel enters the combustion chamber. During extended idling, that unburned fuel slips past the piston rings and dilutes your oil. Just 5% fuel contamination drops your oil's viscosity by an entire weight class. Your cylinder walls lose their protective film at exactly the moment they need it most. Moisture from combustion condenses inside the engine instead of burning off. And on direct injection engines, the intake valves get zero cleaning because there is no load to generate the heat needed. This is particularly harsh on the 5.3-liter and 6.2-liter engines in Silverados and Sierras. Piston ring damage from chronic fuel dilution runs $4,900 to $6,800, and your oil life monitor is paying attention. Frequent extended idle sessions can slash your oil change interval from 7,000 miles down to under 4,000 miles. Limit remote, start to 5 minutes maximum, then drive gently. Your engine warms up 3 to 4 times faster under light load than it does sitting idle in the driveway. 5 minutes to take the edge off the cold cabin is plenty. Anything beyond that is doing more harm than good. Every one of these 10 mistakes has one thing in common. They are all preventable, and every single fix costs a fraction of the repair it prevents. That's the whole point. If this saved you from even one of those repairs, hit subscribe. We have more Chevy-specific breakdowns coming that your dealer will not bring up until it is too late.